The Vietnam Rice Journey is the name of a 50-episode documentary. Each episode is 25 minutes long, produced by writer-director Võ Đắc Danh and screenwriter Võ Đắc Danh, together with a professional documentary filmmaking team. This non-profit film will be broadcast on Vietnamese television systems and international media platforms. The journey of Vietnamese rice will give you a different and new perspective on the history of the Vietnamese nation. A 4,000-year-old people developed together with the rice plant, forming the history of wet rice civilization. With a duration of 25 minutes, each episode is an interesting and fascinating story about Vietnamese farmers, about Vietnam's land and rice crops in each time period stretching across the country over time through the flow of history of 4,000 years. Today's Vietnamese people have access to modern agricultural techniques to make Vietnam the second largest rice exporter in the world. But traditional farming techniques from the very beginning, thousands of years ago, still exist in many places as a testament to the long history of rice farming. Thanks to archaeological findings, we know that the Vietnamese people knew how to make agricultural tools for farming thousands of years ago. A question arises: why, with thousands of years of exploring agricultural civilization, although the territory has been expanded greatly, the Vietnamese still keep the practice of farming on narrow, craggy niches like this? That's a big question that we'll be looking for answers to in the upcoming episodes. The Swidden agriculture is followed by wet rice agriculture with two forms of cultivation: valley fields and terraced fields. These two farming models are close in space but different in form. If terraced fields are explored along the mountainside, valley fields take advantage of the natural ground between two mountain ranges or surrounding mountain ranges. This will be explored more deeply in the specific story of each episode. Vietnam has 54 ethnic groups. They live scattered from the mountains and forests in the northwest to along the Trường Sơn mountain range and the central highlands. The agricultural life of a part of this ethnic group will be invaluable materials for the interesting stories in this film. Each ethnic group has different cultural identity and even has different forms of farming, but it is these factors that have created the richness and diversity of Vietnam's agriculture. Therefore, the episodes about the communities of rice residents in the valley and terraced fields are very interesting cultural and historical exploration episodes. However, the biggest and most important content, accounting for 2/3 of this project's time, is the social, historical, and cultural life of wet rice civilization on alluvial soil. Researchers in Vietnamese agronomy have the same opinion that more than 4,000 history of natural construction of the Vietnamese nation is actually the history of agriculture development, mainly the history of rice farming. Wet rice fields are the means to exploit the swamps and dense forests of the delta. First of all, the delta of the Red River. From the Red River Delta, the Vietnamese have made a historic southern advance, opening the realm to the south to master a Mekong Delta region 3 times larger than the Red River Delta, making a miracle of the historical journey of the Vietnamese rice. The next part of this film is a story of the rice plant's journey through the historical stages of the southern advance of the Vietnamese nation. These periods were started and ended in 1,000 years, that is, from the 10th to the 19th century, from the Lý dynasties, the Chân dynasties, the post-Lê dynasties, to the Nguyen dynasties. The rice plants followed the Vietnamese people across the Ngang Pass to the Mekong Delta and stopped at Cam Mau Cape, where the southern end of Vietnam is today. The images recorded through our lenses show you that, in the journey to open the land to the south, the luggage of the Vietnamese people is still the rice grain and the ancient farming tools of the ancestors. First, there's a slight variation to suit the soil conditions of each region. If the Red River Delta is the first civilization cradle, the Mekong Delta is the last civilization cradle of the journey of the Vietnamese rice. This film also gives us a message that in the journey of the Vietnamese rice through 4,000 years of history, the Vietnamese have left behind a great culture of rice. A culture born from rice and always bears the imprint of rice on each cultural product, on each land and each ethnic group. The last part of these 50 episodes is a story of the 20th century and the future of Vietnamese rice in the 21st century. This is also the final highlight of the journey of Vietnamese rice from manual agriculture with human strength and the pulling power of buffaloes and cows. Vietnamese rice has been assisted with mechanical engineering to bring Vietnam to rank 6th in rice production and 2nd in world food exports. And more than that, a few years ago, when we were on the way to film this movie, Vietnam, with ST25 rice, was voted as the best rice in the world.